My face currently feels like I've been run through by Tom Stewart.
Puts it to the top of the square. Oh, beautiful little fist in there by Dale. Crucial centimetre moments.
He definitely has a bit of the Belcho spirit, as I have a bit of the Belcho spirit.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Back Pocket Podcast, the only podcast that will tank by kicking 6 goals in a row in a come-from-behind loss.
I've only ever tanked by dominating an entire quarter of football instead of just not doing that, which would probably be much easier.
Yeah, I mean, why make it easy? You've got to look believable, right?
I definitely remember the year Melbourne tanked. They often kicked 6 goals in a quarter.
Yeah, they were always losing by 2 points.
All the time.
Hello, my name's Alistair, joined by Jack. We're straight into it this week.
Yeah. I actually...
If Eagles were tanking that game, how bad are Essendon?
Why wouldn't they tank the week before against the team they're close to on the ladder?
It's like, it's believable if they lose to North.
Like, if they lose to North, there's 2 games between them.
Yeah.
They tank that one, right? And also, I love... Where was this conversation when North put a rolling zone in place for the last minute of the game against West Coast? Where was are North tanking by not trying to beat this team? Because I didn't see it.
We were talking about it.
We were. Well, we weren't talking about them tanking. We were just very confused.
Really, this is the most straight into it we've ever been. We're very very vocal about tanking.
Yeah, because it's been all over the news and I'm so confused by it.
Kane Corns is convinced.
Yeah, well, Hutchie threw it out there, didn't he?
Hey, if they are tanking, well done. They've done a really good job of hiding it.
That's the best tanking I've ever seen, outside of like maybe Melbourne's whole season in 2019, or Collingwood's in 2020. Anyway, yes, it was very strange.
They sacked their coach.
Yeah.
Okay.
And list manager.
Yeah, well, that one was needed. That was for sure.
Was it though? Because all those systems are kind of worked out. Stevenson kind of sucks.
Yeah, I mean, Grundy. They got rid of Grundy after, but he signed him to the big deal. So
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, maybe you're right.
Ned Guy redemption arc.
Not happening.
My one vote this week was
to
Sava Radaglia.
I thought you might.
I tossed and turned Radaglia and Stewart. I remember Stewart's first half being not as good as his second, so I went with Asava. I know he was playing on Lord, which wasn't the hardest role he's had all year, but he plastered the kid. I thought it was a good tryout game for Port. I like reading the coaches' votes this week because only one of them gave him 4. I like to believe it was Ken to just like try and lure him over.
Surely it'd be the other way. Chris Scott gives him 4 so that Ken goes,
maybe.
Chris Scott rates him.
On that game, I dare say he would be selected ahead of Tom Jonas pretty comfortably, if that's anything to go by. He starts to reflect the damage, but he was really good defensively. But he had 8 marks, 5 intercepts, 9 disposals at 100%. Again, he's done that a few times this year, which is crazy considering how his kicking used to be. And 2 score involvements out of 9 disposals, which is actually a pretty decent effort.
It's actually the same amount of score involvements he used to have as a forward.
It is. Yeah, probably more. Anyway, yeah, I really liked his game. His positioning was really good again, and I think it's proven that what we talked about earlier in the year, when they don't have a full back line, he slots in fine. When they do, he doesn't. So with Henry injured and Hawkins maybe not back this week, he'll definitely play again. So, yeah, that's my one.
Good for him, bad for Port. My one vote is to the best defender in the competition, James Borlase.
James Borlase. He's got my 3 this week. What a great foreboding bit we did.
It's the best KPD debut in a long time, if not ever.
Yeah, he was really, really good.
Yeah.
I put James, quote-unquote, brick shithouse Borlase.
He's a big lad.
We kind of foreshadowed this one last week accidentally by putting him as the picture on the podcast banner with the best defender in the competition.
Look at his fucking heat map. That is a wall.
Yeah, I know. And 18 disposals at 100% on debut.
Yeah.
8 intercepts, matched someone the size of Casbolt for strength and smashed him for speed.
I mean, Casbolt kicked 2 in the end, I think but
so.
He's been doing that all year. So
9 marks, 3 intercepts, 8 spoils, won 5 out of 6 contested defensive one-on-ones against a very hard person to beat one-on-one. 7 pressure acts, 4 score involvements and 3 score launches as well. Awesome debut game. Really liked it. Yeah, okay. James Borlase, which is I think how you pronounce it, and I could be wrong.
We could be. Borlase.
That sounds wrong. I feel like it's got to be Borlase.
Borlase's fun.
He's, we already talked about the pedigree, but he couldn't be... There was a weird loophole I learned about. He couldn't be drafted as a father-son because he was born in Egypt.
What?
So, He couldn't be drafted as a father-son because he was born in Egypt. And I don't know why that's the rule.
You're telling me right now
That if Sam Doherty moves to London and has a baby there, they can't be drafted by Carlton
that's
father-son.
so stupid.
That's what I read. I could be wrong, but anyway, I know he was born in Egypt. That is correct. But that's why he's not playing for Port.
Rip. He's playing for Adelaide instead.
Yeah.
Rip.
Yeah, there was like a begrudging. His dad's very happy for him, despite the fact that he's playing for Adelaide. Article released. Anyway, my 2 this week
Yeah, sweet. I don't have to say anymore.
was to Callum Wilkie.
Oh, same.
Fair to say he won the battle alongside Battle against Curnow.
I mean, it's not often you two-team a player and lose, right?
Yeah, but they did a really good job. Curnow kicked the 1 goal, just kept his streak alive. But
Yeah.
he had 6 spoils, won all 4 one-on-ones he had with Curnow, 9 pressure acts and 4 tackles. But along with that, 23 disposals, 6 rebounds, 8 intercepts, and 438 metres gained.
Yeah.
It was a good game from a good player.
And in spite of all that, Kerno actually still did have a pretty good influence on that game, especially first quarter.
He forced Curnow up the ground a lot.
But it's an interesting tactic from Ross Lyon. You got 2 goals down. There's 3 minutes to go, and you're still double teaming him.
Are they tanking?
Maybe they are.
I don't think so. Ross is very upset at the moment.
Well, he didn't blame the back half. He only blamed the midfield.
Yeah,
but I feel like he could have supported them by bringing someone up to the contest.
No
in that
votes,
last.
Nick Newman.
I don't know. He's a master coach, isn't he?
It's your 3 because I've done one. It was Borlase.
Oh yeah, my 3 is also from the Adelaide game. I didn't think I would pick 2 from this, but it's Mitch Hinge.
He was really, really good. He's in my special mentions here.
I couldn't give Borlase a vote without giving Hinge votes as well.
That's fair.
Because that would be really
totally
mean.
get that because Hinge was really good. I just thought they played such a different role. That was why I got Borlase in there. But yes, Hinge played a great game again. He's having a kind of a
renaissance
of sorts. I feel like when people saw him get delisted originally, that was just probably going to be career over. But his season's been really good. He showed some signs last year, but since Adelaide's backline's fallen to pieces injury-wise, he's filled that hole and
slotted in. So I'll give some stats for him. 31 disposals, 7 marks, 14 intercepts, only 1 contested mark. I didn't look at that. 12 pressure acts, 451 metres gained, 6 rebound 50s, 4 1%ers, just good across the board.
Pretty good game.
Yeah, he's been very good for them, and especially for anyone who picked him up in fantasy. Not me.
No, not me. Speaking of people I wish I'd picked up in fantasy, and I feel like our 4 and 5 are probably going to be the same this week.
4 and 5 are the same this week.
But Nicholas Newman. Making a late charge for the small All-Australian spot.
Nicholas No Votes Newman.
35 disposals at 89, 10 intercepts, 10 contested disposals, 6 rebound 50s, 17 pressure acts and 3 spoils. 623 metres gained, I think that was the second highest of the round. Highest was Tom Stewart with 700 odd.
Yeah.
It was a high pressure game that he played that made St Kilda panic a lot when going forward. And it's another one of those players that he's hit 30 years of age and he's never been in better form in his life.
Yeah.
He's in career best form by a mile.
At the start of this season, if you said they were going to give Nick Newman a 2-year contract, I would have said, nah, probably just give him the 1, but I'd give him 3, man.
He's been a rock, especially as this Carlton resurgence has come forward. He's been one of the main drivers of it. In 2 games that were must-win in the last 2 weeks, he's been Carlton's best player.
Yeah.
I know Curnow kicked 6 last week, but I still think that Newman was the catalyst.
Yeah.
And again, this week he was just a force. His ability to both pressure players and bring the ball back out, in a decisive way, has been huge.
And then rub the opponent's face in it too.
He really is a little prick, and I love it.
Yeah, I'm sure every other football team hates it. It's just like I used to hate watching Valentine play against my club, but I'm sure Fremantle fans, and I know for a fact, they loved him. So
absolutely. The 5 votes is a very obvious one this week, isn't it? James Sicily.
Oh, I gave mine to Tom Stewart.
Oh, yeah, did you?
No, I gave it to James Sicily.
37 at 90%, 4 rebounds, 11 intercepts, 8 contested, 19 marks, just a casual 19.
I remember I was like, that's his 18th mark, and then I was like, surely, stop him from getting 19, Collingwood. No. 5
score involvements and 3 goal assists without any disposals inside the forward 50. 515 metres gained. He was best on ground by so far, and you wonder, I heard McRae on radio saying that they tried to send someone to Sicily. They didn't, because he was alone all day. There was
It got to the point where he just didn't have to defend anymore.
There were parts of that game where Hawthorn's younger players were just outside the 50 mark, not knowing what to do with it. And Sicily was just sitting 10 metres off the back of them, and they give the ball off to him and he'd find a target inside 50. And that's where those 3 goal assists came from. What were Collingwood thinking with that? It was bizarre.
Especially at halftime, I don't know how they don't go, all right, they've got 2 keys and one of them is really young. Why don't we send Jeremy Howe to him?
It screamed of a team that didn't know what to do once they'd got into the hole they were in. Really enjoyed Mick Malthouse on the radio at quarter time being like, and Hawthorn really have to try and hold on here because, it's going to be hard to contain Collingwood, and they just monstered them all game. Collingwood kicked a couple of goals in patches.
What was the score? What was the final margin? Like 50 points or something?
It wasn't quite. I think it was 30 odd. I'll double check it here.
I'm saying it was 55 points.
55 points. It was 32. There you go. But Hawthorn became only the 5th time this year a team has kicked 6 straight against Collingwood. They did it twice in the same game.
Yep.
They utterly dismantled their game plan. McGuinness had destroyed Dacos before he got injured. He had 5 disposals for the game. 2 of those were from free kicks. One of them was a kick-in. One of the free kicks was kind of gifted to him because it was I think it was a delivery out of bounds.
Yeah.
He got the goal from it. So without that, his game would have been 2 touches or 3 if we count the one free kick he got for himself.
And not to diminish his injury because poor kid's got a broken ass knee. Did you see Collingwood fans saying, "Oh well, he had bone bruising going into the game,"
And then McRae today.
That's why
did you see McRae today came out?
What do you say?
First I've heard of it.
Oh boy, yeah.
So clearly he didn't have bone bruising going into the game.
Oh yeah.
Or if he did, well, either way, someone's talking shit, basically. I'll roll through my special mentions real quick. Tom Stewart. Obviously, Mac Andrew, I thought was really good again.
Yeah, he was good.
It's 2 weeks in a row. He's just missed out for me.
Yeah.
Liam Duggan was really good for West Coast.
Mm-hmm.
He's having a really good season in a really struggling team. Jake Lloyd back to almost his best.
Harris Andrews was good.
Wiedering and Andrews were my other 2.
Liam Jones gets a special mention for me for being really good.
Spoiling it to disadvantage? Is that what it is?
Yeah. If they'd lost that game, it would have been a special dishonourable mention.
Can you have a spoiled clanger? Because I think he had a few of those. If that was a stat you could record.
He spoiled it directly to a Richmond player who handballed it to his opponent who kicked the goal.
The Sav spoils. Earlier this year I was referring to them as radically into the corridor.
And there's not much else he could have done to influence that contest, so hey, maybe I'm being harsh.
He played a good game. He did play a good game, but I thought the coaches' votes were interesting considering how little Richmond even got him in there.
Yeah. He was good. He was still good.
In the weirdest of coincidences, St Kilda have just been following the exact blueprint of last year. This weekend, in 2022, at the same point of the game, with 20 games played.
They actually won this game last year and re-signed their coach, so...
No, not this game. This game last year, they were 11-9, having lost to the team with the largest winning streak in the AFL, which was losing to Geelong last year, losing to Carlton this year. Didn't win a game for the rest of the year last year. They can't finish with the same result as last year because...
There's an extra game.
There's an extra game. So either they will have a slightly better record than last season or a slightly worse one. I don't know. The only game I have it going either way is the Richmond game for them.
Yeah, but they're playing at Marvel, so it should be in St Kilda's favour.
So they should win that. But there's every chance they lose the next 3. So they've found themselves in a bit of a hole now that they've lost this weekend because they're right back in the pack. With probably the most difficult fixture, I think, of those teams in the pack to come, other than maybe Geelong, who have them, Collingwood and the Bulldogs. But we'll see how they go, because it wasn't too long ago that Ross was very bullish, and now we've got very, very cranky Ross.
He changes his mind every week.
He does.
Last week he said, don't believe the narrative. This week he says they have the worst midfield in the league. 2 weeks before that, he said the season was falling apart.
In fairness, maybe Ross, like us, didn't see Hunter Clark's 20 disposals at all. Because
I certainly didn't see them. And according to St Kilda fans online, they're not a big fan of Hunter Clark. So
I feel like, speaking of things being overplayed, I feel like the media is overplaying and Collingwood is underplaying the issues at the club right now. I think it's not as bad as the media is making it out to be. I think they've had 3 games against really good teams. And they've had no Oliver, not Hawthorn, before that, 3 games against good teams. 2 of those. One of those is
You mean Melbourne or Collingwood?
Collingwood.
Okay, no Oliver.
I said Melbourne have had no Oliver Phillips.
Okay.
Dacos isn't the be-all and end-all of that team.
No.
They'll be fine. They just need to get that mix right. If anything, Dacos leaving means that Mitchell can play a proper inside mid-role again.
Mitchell or Adams into the middle, and when Dacos comes back, shelter him off half-back
Put him
so he
on
doesn't
half-back
have to go
again,
into
because it
contests like
worked.
that again.
Like some players are meant to play that role, and he played that role really well, and it complemented Collingwood's football. Him playing an inside role, because I get you want your stars in the middle, but it hasn't been working. The last few weeks, they haven't looked as good. His effect hasn't been as high.
I think this year Sheets was a bit better on the contested side, but this year we've really found out that if you just put your silkiest player at half-back, they can really damage a game.
Yep.
And this week, totally unexpected, Zach Fisher did it for Carlton.
Zach Fisher did it really well.
Yeah, no one saw that coming. Just playing that exact same role.
To the extent that my dad, if you're listening, I know you're a Zach Fisher fan, and a lot of Carlton fans, and Alistair's not.
I'm not a Zach Fisher fan.
You're not.
I cannot.
He messaged me earlier during that game, and he said, "Is he pound for pound the best player in the AFL?" And I was like, "No, probably not."
He weighs 30 kilos, so maybe pound for pound.
By weight, yeah, maybe. I like Zach Fisher. For Carlton's sake, I hope West Coast trade a lot for him.
They won't. I don't think they won't.
I don't think they won't.
They don't need. They've got Jaden Hunt off halfback.
I think Zach Fisher's best is really, really good.
At his best, he was a 2-goal, 5-tackle small forward.
Yep.
But he doesn't. No one knows if he wants to be a midfielder or a halfback.
If you took his
flanker.
stats for last year and cut them in half, for half the year he was an elite mid forward, and for the other half of the year he was a below average mid forward.
What's below average? What's below average?
Spud mid forward. Also, back on the Dacos thing, I feel for Dacos, I do. At this time of year, it would be an awful time to get an injury as a person who clearly loves football as much as he does.
He's 19.
But the carry-on from Collingwood fans about other clubs, people taking joy in his injuries, it's weird to me because, it's not career-ending. He's not dead. He's just signed for what is reported to be $1 million a year until the end of the decade.
That kid could never play a game of AFL footy and he's set for life.
He might be a bit nuff and in bad taste, but you think they were committing hate crimes. They're just happy that Collingwood are disadvantaged. The rest of the comp has been all year by injuries.
Do you think Collingwood fans were laughing and hooting and hollering when they saw, Blitzarves do a hammy? What did he do his calf? I don't remember what he did.
Hammy. Yeah.
Hammy.
And also the vitriol online about them wanting Henry killed before the Collingwood-Geelong game earlier this year. It's just very funny to me. Port, prison bar clubs, let's jump across, black and white. Port really need to win this week.
They're not in a good spot.
Their past 4 losses are, I would argue, forgivable because showdowns are unpredictable. Carlton and Collingwood are the 2 probably premiership favourites outside of Melbourne at the moment. It would be, if I was putting in order, it's probably Melbourne, Collingwood, Brisbane, Carlton.
Yeah, that's how the odds have it at the moment, I think.
There you go. That's 2 of the favourites. And then Geelong and Geelong. You get that, right? All those losses are understandable. If they lose to GWS at home, it's panic stations now.
If I was Josh Carr and I'm coaching that side, I'm putting all the pressure on this week.
Have you ever seen a coach do an interview mid-quarter?
No. Oh, once. Today?
Yeah.
Oh, not today. This week.
That was really weird.
It was nightmare scenarios for Hinkley. Obviously, there was the concussion stuff last week and him coming out and saying everything's fine and above board and they back their doctor no matter what, to being shut down by the AFL and losing one of their best players and another really important player for a crucial clash in Geelong, and then to be giving an interview mid-quarter when he's supposed to be coaching.
And then post-game hanging out with Dangerfield.
And patting him on the back instead of going to his players.
Very strange stuff.
I understand the
for a long
anger.
time, I've watched Port fans' hatred of Hinkley, and I've been like, he's doing a pretty good job. But after that game,
I think just this year in general.
I got all of it. It was very odd.
Look, I have opinions about boundary side coaching. I think you have to do a mix. But this year, watching Hinkley on the sidelines when they were winning was great because he's getting around players and giving them high fives and stuff. But it genuinely looks like he's not coaching.
It does. Again, he did an interview while the footy was on.
You see Michael Voss there, he's got his booklet, he's scribbling, he's yelling at players. Hinkley's just sitting there. He's drinking his Pepsi Max and having a good time.
Maybe that's it. So
Hey,
we're Pepsi
Alistair
Max.
Clarkson's
We're Pepsi Max people.
yeah, I'm drinking one right now.
Vossi's a full Coke man. He's full sugar Coke.
Ugh. What?
Yeah, he's a maybe that's the way. You got to be really you got to be wired.
Nah.
He smashes a few of those.
That's too much sugar.
Ratton used to be a dare iced coffee man.
That was weird.
That was the weirdest one.
I remember the highlight of him sitting in the box and there's an unopened 2-litre dare on the side of the thing. I'm like, no one should drink that.
Stuart Jew used to down a whole box of party mix. That was his one. Nothing's been better than the Bomber Thompson sandwich when Geelong was like 100 points up against West Coast.
why
And
not?
he's just like not watching, he's just like eating it.
I mean, that's Hinkley when they're 10 goals down.
Yeah, you're right. Which, in fairness, they've only been once this year.
Yeah. I don't know. It's a really weird situation. I understand their ire, their anger.
Yeah.
It's not a good look, but hey, if they turn it around, does it matter?
It's crazy how his season has gone from that footage of him with Horn Francis earlier in the year, which was like one of the best moments I've seen on a footy field this year. Like in the pouring rain, he's taken the young kid aside who was under a lot of pressure, and then he's come out and had a great last quarter after it. That was awesome. I loved seeing that. The downfall from that has been insane.
And I think that's what I mean when I'm like, at his best, him being there and getting around the players is important. Like that moment
He's
in
been
particular.
voted several times the hardest coach to coach against by his peers. Like,
Which is so strange. But like, yeah, I don't know. I really can't get a vibe on Hinkley, and I would love there to be someone like a snitch or a whistleblower, someone to just tell us what the fuck is going on there.
it's odd.
Someone's like, yeah, Ken's got pictures of Koshi fucking in blackface and he'll release them if he gets fired.
He would say it's just woke nonsense, as we know. So we've got a big game now this week. I think 4 weeks ago there was probably very little interest in Geelong Collingwood.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
And then now the combined forms of each team swapping pretty severely.
Geelong's 3 in the fucking SEN power rankings or something, man.
Those power rankings. Geelong, no, they're like 5th, I think, or 6th even. They beat the team that was well above them in the power rankings, and they don't go anywhere. But the Bulldogs beat Richmond, who were like 11th before that game, and dropped Martin and Cochin. But the Bulldogs jumped 2 spots.
Hawthorn beat Collingwood and stayed in the same spot.
Yeah. I don't, Melbourne struggled against North and jumped 2 teams to go to first. Brisbane had a really tough away win against a Fremantle team that's looked pretty good for the last 3 weeks.
Stats don't lie, man.
And they dropped a spot. I wish I could comprehend it.
Anyway, Geelong, Collingwood, Geelongwood.
Yeah, that's all I was going to say. It's good that it's... I know it was almost sold out, I think, 2 weeks ago when the tickets went on sale, but it's sold out already now.
We've been playing MCG, Marvel.
MCG, yeah.
Oh, nice.
So it's another... Yeah, Collingwood not playing at Marvel this time, apparently.
Yeah, weird.
Despite doing that against Brisbane later. Imagine being like this team, can't win at the MCG. Let's not play them there. I feel like you could, if you're Collingwood, sell any other MCG game other than the one against the team that has like a genuine pathological issue with playing there. Maybe they should have.
Yeah, there's so many interesting games. Obviously, GWS Port is huge.
Massive now.
Shapes the top 4, shapes the top 8.
Absolutely. Carlton Melbourne is massive. Yeah. Again, top 4, top 8. Everything
it's crazy
on that game.
Essendon North,
Sydney
huge.
Gold Coast.
Are you playing this week?
Sydney Gold Coast is still... that's Sydney's season on the line against Gold Coast, who this year have fired up when they shouldn't. Like every time they should win,
well, Gold Coast are out.
They don't. Well, that's what I mean. That's why they'll probably beat Sydney.
It annoys me.
That's been their season. Brisbane, Adelaide.
They're going to finish in the exact same spot with an interim coach.
Brisbane, Adelaide is massive. Brisbane win that, they're close to locking in top 2.
And Adelaide are done.
Adelaide win that. I think Adelaide lose that. They can still make finals, based on the draw of other teams.
That's true. That is true.
We love a derby. The one earlier this year was surprisingly good.
I would assume if Adelaide are still in contention, that means that their spot is the one that Geelong are likely to steal.
Yeah. St Kilda, Richmond have been good games the last 2 or 3 years for some reason.
It's at Marvel though, so I wouldn't expect much from Richmond.
Yeah, I'm expecting St Kilda to win that. But Richmond should have Martin, Grimes and Cochin back. And then Hawthorn Bulldogs. I mean, Hawthorn are serving up some great footy at the moment, and that's in Launceston. So who knows what could happen there? Sicily loves the Launceston game, so he could go nuts.
Playing anywhere. As long as he's not suspended, Hawthorn will do it right.
That seems to be the way. So on request, because you sent out the request earlier, and I've gone with different stats to exactly what they were asked for. Seb might take offence to that. So ruck defence stats.
I just want to say, this is not an official AFL thing. It's just Fox Footy.
It's just really weird. Yeah, some teams are like, it's retro round, and Fox Footy's like,
ruck round.
Mason Cox in all the promos gets dropped. I saw some Collingwood fans laughing about how they were confused, like they didn't know whether it was retro round or ruck round, and then they didn't show up with retro jumpers or a ruck. So they just didn't know what to do this week.
With Darcy Cameron. Who is he?
They did. I think they were joking about Mason Cox being dropped. He got dropped because he got made look silly by Nick Newman. That's just it. Your career's over, Mason.
Nicholas Newman's ending.
He got signed for 2 years. 2-year contract at like 31.
Yeah.
Anyway.
We were just praising Nick Newman for getting a 2-year contract at 30. So
Yeah, but Nick Newman having career best year, Mason Cox arguably having career worst year.
yeah.
Ruck round, most spoils this season. You're going to hear some very similar names over and over again in this list.
I'm predicting it's mostly going to be Tim English and Rowan Marshall.
He's in a few of them. Rowan Marshall. English is in all of them, I think.
Yeah.
Except for one. So most spoils this year, O'Brien with 60.
Yeah, he's always around.
English with 55. Goldstein, 54.
Oh, that tells us how old he is.
Intercepts, not intercept marks, because we decided that was like only like 40 was the most
Yeah.
a ruck had. I went intercepts in general. English, 87, which is pretty good.
Yeah,
Marshall, 74. O'Brien, 62.
yeah.
Contested defensive one-on-ones for rucks who've had 10 or more defensive one-on-ones this year.
Interesting.
Oscar McInerney hasn't lost one.
Oh,
Brody
there you
Grundy
go.
hasn't lost one.
Maybe they should put him in defence.
Big Bad Bailey Williams is the next best with an 8% record.
You hear that, West Coast fans?
Yeah,
Be
we
glad he got off this week.
love Big Bad Bailey Williams. Also, that was the funniest. That took them 2 hours to decide that's not a suspension, which anyone could have decided from just looking at it.
Yeah.
One,
They should have sent that to the
Redmond
ARC
was-
and he goes, umpire's call.
Redmond was fine. Like, he just kind of got a little flip to the chin by accident and got up and took his free kick.
My opinion is, if you have long hair and you're in a contest like that and it doesn't fall out of your bun, play on.
Yeah, so when the headband came off earlier this year, that's why it's 2 weeks.
Yeah.
When Aisha's headband goes into the
He
distance.
needs to tie his ponytail a little less
Yeah.
tight.
Redmond, wear scrunchies instead of hair ties. And then 1%ers was the last one I did. Tim English again, 88. O'Brien, 74. And Omac, 67.
Yeah.
So Omac for the big, like, contested defensive one-on-ones, 1%ers, he's up there.
Yeah, so I had a look at a few of the most recent stats. Tim English, Max Gawn,
Yeah, they
Riley
kind of crushed
O'Brien
it.
were just crushing it. Ron Marshall's been better over the past 2 years.
And you said my favourite footballer,
Jonathan Stegler has the most on average this year.
I hate that so much.
For intercept marks.
Yeah.
And contested marks in general from a ruckman. We can't really split contested marks into defensive.
Yeah,
so
you take a contested mark up forward.
it's Corey McKernan, but
Luke Jackson had a few this year for AFL players because he's a forward ruck.
he's a forward ruck.
Yeah.
So that one's hard to split.
It was
Unfortunately.
like how I saw that like fourth on 1%ers was Blixarves, and I was like, yeah, but there's a reason for that, isn't there?
Oh, I wonder. Oh man, I should have looked at the specific stats for fucking what's his name? Big Hawthorn fucker.
Big Hawthorn fucker? Lloyd Meek?
Nah, Big Boy McAvoy, who
Oh,
went
Big Boy
back for a
McAvoy.
couple of years.
Yeah, that would have been good.
Yeah, remember that game? He was so defensively
when
good,
I
but he had no
saw
disposals,
the
but also his
headline-
opponent didn't.
That's the ultimate defensive game. That's like a Prestigiacomo game. I had it suggested the other day by the other number one listener. They're tied. Seb, that we have a Prestigiacomo award at the end of the year for like the defender with like the least stats, but also the best defensive record.
the most
like a balance, like a
One-on-one.
yeah, like one-on-one spoils and like
Oh, that's really interesting.
1%ers
I wonder who that would be. Maybe
with the
Jack
least
Payne?
stats. Collins this year would have a good because Ballard's been taking a lot of his intercepts. Payne would be right up. Buckley, Dylan Buckley,
Yeah.
a bigger one.
Dylan?
Jack Buckley, sorry,
Dylan Buckley's not winning an award.
No, but that'd be. I'd like to see that.
Maybe the most annoying podcast. Although that might be
No, that's
the
Tom
last.
Papley now.
Yeah.
Tom Papley's gambling podcast where they make jokes about make sure you gamble responsibly by scouring all the betting companies to make sure you can get all the promos you can.
Yeah.
And Sydney's like, we oppose gambling. This man's in our leadership group, but weird.
I don't think they would
man.
appreciate the promo. Oh, was it their promo or was that just part of the news article, the bit about Blakey ripping bongs?
That was just part of the news article.
Okay.
That was someone criticising them for it. Blakey sounding less like a talented young footballer and more like an 18-year-old who rips bongs in a 7-Eleven parking lot, which did make me laugh. But yeah, like also that's another one. Like if you're Blakey and you're an up-and-coming future leader of a club that has taken an inherently anti-gambling stance, do you go on your dickhead teammates' gambling podcast?
Yes.
I guess you do. I guess he's done.
He's in the leadership group, mate. You can't say no.
Gambling is so inherent in football now. Like it's so hard to separate the two. Like I heard Will Schofield talking the other day that the Backchat team went to the doubleheader rugby games at Perth on the weekend because they got tickets from a gambling company. It's so hard to separate them at the moment. I feel like it just like legislation is the only way to fix it currently because it's such a saturation. We've got more gambling ads than anywhere in the world.
I hate it when they play the same two in a row. I especially hate that. Is it PointsBet or SportsBet where they're doing the stats? I'm like, you don't fucking do the stats.
yeah. I do the stats. Just give it to him. I'm like, absolutely not how we do it.
Yeah.
Or the other way around. We're looking for an excuse not to give you a stat because most of the stats...
Those motherfuckers are like, nah, that's not really a tackle.
Yeah.
-3 fantasy points. And I'm like,
see,
no!
You see someone do a handball that the umpire's called a handball and we have to begrudgingly give it one. Ollie Hollands would have got a handball on the weekend. I guarantee the champion data team giving the handball were like, handball tackled by...
In slow motion, maybe a handball.
I think it might have been a handball. More than Connor Rosie's was. That's for sure.
Of course you would think that.
Well, I mean, after the melt, Ken Hinkley went to the Umpires Association about it. And I don't know, man. Maybe if your team has had an inherent issue this year with being the worst team for free kicks against, they've got like a 60-something frees against record.
Who play footy like that.
If you play chaos
top
football,
sides.
you have frees against.
Yeah, Richmond, Collingwood.
Back in the day when there was a separation of style, Richmond and the Bulldogs used to have way more frees against, and Geelong and West Coast used to have way more frees for, and it's because of the way you play football. Mm-hmm. If you play a more outside running protected game, you're going to have more frees for because teams have to give infringements in marking contests and they're trying to run down your players and they get pushed in the backs. If you're crashing headfirst into packs, you're going to give away high tackles and legging frees. Or if you're Jason Horne-Francis and you want to dive on a man's back and then shove his head into the floor, you're probably going to have a free and 50 paid against you.
He looked like he was going to cry. It was so funny.
I would love to understand what the rules are. And I'm not the first person to say this year, so it's probably just going to sound cliche at this point. Someone had a free kick paid against them on the weekend, again, much like earlier in the year when Wilkie had it happen, for pointing at the scoreboard. Connor Rosie yelled at an umpire for a minute straight and did not have a 50 paid against him. What is dissent now? Because I feel like pointing at the scoreboard, totally fair. Yelling at an umpire, what the rule was brought in for.
I actually think pointing at the screen's fine.
That's fine.
It's like,
That's
hey,
just venting
I
your frustration,
disagree with
right?
your decision. If you look up there, you might see it differently.
That's the gentleman Scott Pendlebury walk up to the umpire.
Well, no, he can say anything.
He can,
he could walk up to an umpire and call him a fucking flea.
You do
and
get
away
a
with it.
you get a discount for being an all-time great, don't you? Because I remember Gary Ablett somehow used to have...
Because I don't feel like Dangerfield or...
Yeah, Hawkins definitely doesn't.
Yeah, I don't feel like some players do.
Don't, yeah. But...
I would never see, and I haven't seen it ever, Travis Boak, who is a legend, go up and talk to an umpire like that.
And if he did, he'd get 50 against him. But the one, it's Pendlebury and Ablett used to get it as well. When dissent didn't used to exist, but Ablett used to be the most annoying little prick to umpires, and they used to treat him with the most love.
Do you remember when
That's where the trick is.
Jake Lever, when he fucking threw a tantrum and was bouncing around and he threw the ball at the ground, they didn't pay anything.
I do recall that. I mean, I saw a few tweets on the weekend. I agreed with them at first. That were saying they were saying we're going to be harder on the back to the 9 rule, which they were. I saw a few paid players not doing it. And they said, how many are going to be paid against Richmond? Well, the ball, I feel like, wasn't down there enough.
I did say to the group, I said, bet's on. I reckon they'll get 5 against.
Their forwards didn't have to be back to the 9 often because they only kicked, I think, 8 points or something for the game. That first 15 minutes was brutal.
It was awful.
I was at the sports bar watching it, and it was bad.
Was it Richmond bad or Bulldogs good? I don't know.
A bit of both. Jamara.
I mean, Bont just goes crazy.
Jamara kicked straight. That helped. Kicked 4 goals in the first.
That's true.
Bontempelli is a freak, and he, regardless of where it sits with the votes at the end of the year, he deserves to win the Brownlow. I think he has been the best player in the competition this year by a fair stretch.
I agree.
We'll probably see him or Petrarca win the Coaches Award. I don't care who wins it. I think Bontempelli's the best player in the comp. Bontempelli is now favourite for the Brownlow. I think a few predictors have him 3rd or 4th at the moment.
Yeah, but he's got 3 games to go.
I think it will be really interesting to see where Taranto ends up in the Brownlow.
It's such a good first half of the year.
Well, not even that. How much will the umpires rate his games where he had disposals but not impact? And how much will they rate the games where he had
3
impacts
goals
but not disposals? I think it'll be really interesting to see how that works out. But it's down to... Really, it seems like it's down to those 3. It feels like it's Taranto, Butters, and Petrarca.
I think Dacos still has a shot.
4,
because Dacos is going to get 1s and 2s in games where he barely had an impact.
Because of the Dacos effect.
Yeah, and there's no problem with that. That happens every year with so many players.
Look, at the start of the season...
And it also happens in reverse. There'll be games where he's best on ground, probably won't get 3.
Tom Atkins didn't get a single vote last year.
And that is fucked.
So sometimes umpires just do or don't give players votes
And I feel like
For
they were
random
split those
reasons.
very obviously between the big Geelong players.
Yeah.
Um,
There were games. That Richmond Classic last year, which is I think still stands up as one of the best games of football I've ever seen.
Tom Stewart get votes?
Atkins was best on ground in that game by so far. Him and Baker, right? The two probably unexpected lights for those two teams.
Baker was so good.
Were the best players on the ground that game. And no, Tom Stewart didn't get votes despite being close to best on ground. I remember being like the umpires have clearly given him a naughty boy like no votes because I feel like they were the three. And I think only of those three Baker got votes. So
And a loss.
umpires are weird, I think is the answer. Umpires are weird. So I don't know. I think Dacos will get votes because he does pretty football well. And that's why Pendlebury has, or will at the end of this season, probably have the second most votes of all time. I think he's behind... No, third most. But he's the most... He'll be the most without a Brownlow.
I can also say the same about Bont, though. Like, he will get votes just for the moments where he'll have a 5-minute patch where he'll take a mark inside 50 and either kick a goal or set one up, and they'll go, fuck yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's what'll be interesting to see with Baker again. Will he get votes for that game against Hawthorn, where he kicked that goal to win them the game?
Maybe.
So he had a good without being great game, but then won them the game at the end. If you can hear some crinkling in the background, our cat is going feral with some paper on the floor just out of nowhere.
It's the fucking tag from the coffee
Is
bag.
it a coffee tag? Okay.
Yeah, he's an idiot.
Yeah, he loves plastic. He's really about macroplastics.
He loves plastic and paper from Japan.
They are his two favourites. And feet.
He's a bougie cat.
He's Anyway, that's
We're all sorted. I fixed it. Sounds like I killed him.
he's gone.
Have anything else to talk about?
No, I don't
Next
think so.
round looks good.
A few teams are rolling out retro jumpers. I thought retro round already happened, but we're doing it again now. Freya's got one back.
Final week fixture's a bit whiffy.
Bulldogs did Diamond Dogs last week. I don't know.
I didn't mind the Diamond
I like
Dogs.
the Diamond Dogs. And they won with it for the first time in ages.
Yeah, I think Jamari Ugo-Hagan said they were going to wear it every week if they keep winning. But they're not going to wear it again.
Do
so
it. Never wear the Thor one again. Ever.
No.
Please. I don't hate the Diamond Dog. I love a tacky jumper. Like
I hear Diamond Dog and I think of Ted Lasso, so I like Diamond
I think
Dog
of David
immediately.
Bowie, so
Nah.
like the Hawthorn one I liked as well, the Ansett Cup jumper.
Yeah, it was alright.
I'd like more teams to bring back their weird jumpers, like not the Thor one.
I don't want to see Carlton wearing M&M
I want the Carlton M&M. I want the.
I prefer the yellow.
I want the Pura North Melbourne orange jumper.
We're going to go silver Essendon.
No.
We're going to go silver Hawthorn.
I want to see it. I want to see that awful.
Who did camo? Was that also Hawthorn?
Also Hawthorn. They also did the diamond like old man sweater.
Oh yeah.
I want to see that come back because there's a classic photo of John Platten wearing the diamond one. Awful jumper. I'd love it. Hawthorn's is a weird one to me because I've always thought that yellow and brown was a weird choice of colours. You know, that was voted on by the members of the club to be their colours.
I believe.
I don't know who sits in the room and they'll
Everything
go.
was black and white back then. I don't know why they didn't just pick green.
They could have worn anything. They've gone with brown and yellow. It's arguably the worst colour combination in the AFL.
Hold on.
We're thinking.
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah. Port's gone with a little less green teal on the tri-bolt jumper they're bringing back this week. They've gone it's a little more blue.
I don't know. I feel like Fremantle should go back to their fucking four
Yeah,
colours,
I
man.
prefer the Freo, like the tricolour with the white anchor
Yep.
strip to the modern one. It's just boring.
Yeah, I feel like they want to be seen as a modern
Chevrons
professional
are
football
boring.
team, but they have been for 20 fucking years.
Port won their only flag in the ugliest jumper I've ever seen. And ever since they won the Chevron, they can't win a final. So I think they should get rid of the Chevron.
Didn't Richmond have to win a final in their,
they won the away strip.
away strip?
Yeah.
Who cares?
Who cares? It doesn't matter. Like the Soccer World Cup's on at the moment, and I think it's a great example of the colours don't matter worth a shit because they get forced to wear the ultimate clash kits. Teams are winning in colours their country doesn't even look like being the colours of. I don't think it matters, and we kind of talk about this with the Collingwood away, quote unquote away strip.
Better this year.
It is better this year. The white's gotten a little whiter, but just have a real one. Just have one that's not got all the black on it. What happened to that? You know, like 2002, mostly white and grey with the swoop logo
Why
on
don't
the
they
front.
just steal the Prosen Bar Guernsey, have all white on the back, and then three black stripes on the front?
And that'd be funny, right?
Good.
Imagine how much
Colin
piss
would have a
poured
chance to do
off.
the funniest thing ever.
Kosh would come out and have, like, there'd be veins sticking out of his bald head.
He'd be like, this is so woke.
I'd love it. Anyway, that is as good a place as any to possibly leave this episode. As always, you can find us at the Back Pocket AU on everywhere. If you search the Back Pocket podcast, we pop up. I think that's the main one. And then if you want to buy a silly bucket hat about England or a Belcho Spirit, speaking of Belcho Spirit, in the trailer this week for Ruck Round.
They didn't do an interview with Belcho.
They should have. We should get
They
him
brought
on.
out some classics, Justin and Simon Madden, Blair, Corey McKernan, Blair. Where's Belcho?
We should
Belcho?
reach out to Belcho, ask if he wants to come on the show. Find us at the Back Pocket AU, buy a Belcho Spirit t-shirt, and we will see you next week.
Bye.